All right, let's jump right in. We've literally all been there, right? You're right in the middle of streaming a great movie, or maybe you're about to present on a really critical video call, and suddenly, boom, the dreaded buffering circle appears. Your app just refuses to load, your call freezes up, and it is universally frustrating. Usually, our immediate reaction is to just glare at the router and yell, "The internet is broken." But what if I told you that it isn't magic, and it probably isn't the internet itself at all? Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're going to completely change how you see the invisible forces at play in your home or your office. We are going to totally decode the invisible conversation that is happening all around you right now.
So to decode that conversation, we have to start with a really fundamental question. Why does Wi-Fi sometimes feel like pure seamless magic, and other times it just feels completely broken? You look down at your phone and you see 4 solid signal bars. Your internal monologue is probably saying, "Hey, I've got full bars. I should have lightning-fast internet." Yet, absolutely nothing is loading. To understand why this happens, we need to fundamentally shift how we think about what our devices are actually doing in the background.
To answer that, we need to completely ditch our old mental model. Honestly, so many of us imagine Wi-Fi as this sort of magical internet pipe. We tend to think our phone is literally pulling the internet through the air, kind of like water flowing through plumbing. But that is not the reality at all. The true reality is that it's a highly dynamic call and response radio conversation. Think of a super busy, loud outdoor market. One person calls out, another person answers, and that message travels across the open space using radio waves.
Now, to make sense of this radio conversation, we first have to separate a few things that we normally just lump together. First off, Wi-Fi is just the local wireless link. That is it. It is not the internet itself. The internet is that massive, global, wider network of connected computers and services all over the world. And sitting right between them is your router. Your router isn't the internet box. It's simply the local traffic manager helping your personal devices reach that wider world. Once you see it this way, you actually stop asking, why is the internet bad? And you start asking, what part of this local wireless system is failing?
And this brings us to an absolutely crucial point. A wireless connection is not just signal presence, it is signal recognition. Your router and your phone aren't just blindly broadcasting noise into the void. They have to actually agree on a shared language. Imagine 2 people in a really crowded room trying to speak Urdu to each other. If one speaks Urdu and the other understands Urdu, their message gets through perfectly. But if they don't share that language, well, the sound waves are still hitting their ears, sure, but there's absolutely no meaning. In the wireless world, just because there is radio energy present in the room does not mean your device can actually understand it. Because it relies so heavily on recognition, we face this hidden cost of wireless convenience. Wi-Fi is a shared conversation in public space. Unlike a physical plugged-in cable where that wire is mostly dedicated just to you, Wi-Fi uses the open air, and literally everyone nearby is using that exact same space. Picture a classroom full of excited students. If every single student shouts out an answer at the exact same time, it is just chaotic noise. The teacher can only understand them if they take turns speaking. Your local network has this exact same problem. It has to perfectly coordinate a shared medium so all your devices aren't just endlessly talking over one another. Which honestly leads us to the biggest myth of all, those little signal bars on your screen. They are kind of lying to you. Why? Because signal strength is really just loudness, whereas signal quality is clarity. Imagine you're standing in a terribly noisy tea stall. Someone is standing right next to you, basically screaming in your ear. They are very loud, right? That's maximum signal strength. But because of the clattering cups, the shouting vendors, all the traffic noise outside, you still can't understand a single word they are actually saying. That is terrible signal quality. Because of all this background noise, a really strong Wi-Fi signal can still carry a very poor or incredibly crowded conversation. The next time you're staring angrily at your phone because nothing is loading, despite having those full bars, I want you to remember the noisy tea stall. Your phone can absolutely hear the router yelling, but the environment is so full of confusing noise, overlapping signals, and interruptions that the actual conversation is just completely garbled. So what actually adds to that garbled noise? Obstacles. As radio signal travels, it spreads out. And as it spreads, it inherently loses its concentrated clarity. It's kind of like trying to speak to someone all the way across a massive courtyard. Even if you yell at the exact same volume, your words get softer and much harder to make out by the time they finally reach the other side. And distance isn't just about how far away you are. It's about what is physically in the way. Walls, thick floors, metal surfaces in your kitchen, heavy furniture, and even other wireless devices all act as physical barriers,
literally stripping the clarity away from that radio conversation. So, where does your router actually fit into all of this? Well, its job is pretty simple. It helps your local devices talk to the wider network. It is not the source of the internet itself. Think of it like a really busy receptionist in an office. The receptionist doesn't actually do the accounting or the marketing for the company. They just direct the incoming and outgoing messages to ensure the right information gets to the right desk. The router is simply your local coordinator. But man, does that receptionist have a tough job. Just look at all these competing voices. In a modern home, it's never just one phone anymore, is it? It's phones, laptops, smart TVs, watches, security cameras, not to mention countless background app updates, all demanding attention at the exact same millisecond. It's exactly like a really loud family dinner where every single person at the table is asking the host a question at the exact same time. The router's attention is limited, and it has to desperately divide that attention across all these chaotic voices, which inevitably slows the whole conversation down for everyone.
Okay, so let's look at how we actually jump into this chaotic conversation. Think of it this way. The network name you see on your screen is just a doorway. It's not the destination. Spotting your network's name on your phone is exactly like seeing the glowing neon sign for a restaurant down the street. It helps you locate the building, sure, but that sign doesn't actually feed you. Once you walk through the doorway, you still have to get a table, order your food, and establish the rules of engagement. Establishing those rules behind the scenes, it is absolutely not an instant magic click. First, your device has to sense the network. Second, it has to recognize the rules. It's kind of like a security desk checking your ID to see if you're even allowed in the building. Third, it formally joins the conversation and figures out exactly how to talk. And only then, way down at step 4, does it actually begin exchanging usable data. When your connection feels oddly slow before a web page even starts to load, it's usually because this invisible setup negotiation is taking place in the background.
And what's really fascinating here is that once you are connected, the work isn't just over. The connection is an ongoing balance, not some static lock. Imagine two people walking down the street carrying a very long, very heavy piece of furniture. If one person speeds up or slows down even a little, the furniture tilts and might totally fall. They have to constantly adjust their speed to each other just to keep it balanced. Your phone and your router do this exact same dance constantly, adjusting to changes in distance, interference, and other devices suddenly jumping onto the network.
This constant balancing act leads to a really surprising trade-off. Wi-Fi often becomes slower, not because it wants to, but because it literally has to protect accuracy. If you're trying to tell someone a super important phone number from across a noisy room, you don't speak faster, right? You slow down, you enunciate, and you maybe even repeat yourself so they get it exactly right. The network does the exact same thing. It intentionally drops your speed in a noisy environment to ensure your data arrives completely uncorrupted. Speed isn't just an arbitrary number. It's a direct reflection of how confident the network is in the clarity of the air. So let's pull all of these different layers together. When things are working perfectly, it feels like one smooth, invisible thread. But beneath the surface, it's really a stack of distinct jobs all happening simultaneously. You're seeing the network, you're joining it, the router is furiously coordinating traffic, the devices are trying to stay in sync, and finally, the data is being delivered. When any single one of these layers weakens, maybe your router's overloaded, or someone turns on a microwave and it interferes with the sync, the entire experience changes for you. When we take a step back and really look at all these invisible layers, everything we've explored today maps perfectly to a real-world meaning. We've shifted from viewing wireless internet as this invisible, magical pipe to seeing it for what it truly is, a very delicate system of trade-offs. It's a shared language spoken over public air, where loudness definitely doesn't guarantee clarity, where distance distorts the message, and where a local coordinator works tirelessly to balance the competing needs of every single device in your home. Which brings us to our final thought for today. The very next time you get that dreaded buffering circle of doom, try not to just stare angrily at your signal bars. Stop and ask yourself, is the wider internet actually broken, or is your local router just struggling to hear your device over the noise of the environment? You now have the power to diagnose your connection with logic, rather than just guessing. You can finally see the invisible system. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and until next time, keep looking for the complex systems hidden right in plain sight.